Okay, so the next thing is SOCOM, Special Operations Forces. I've seen some people basically ask if you could have um, something like this, but for Russia. And technically, you could, or I say something like this: it's special forces specialization for Russia, and technically you could, but the reason why a special forces specialization, you see, the U.S. organizes special forces differently than a lot of other countries. Across the various branches of the armed forces, you have um, various different special forces units, and you have something called, well, SOCOM, which literally stands for Special Operations Command, which is meant to coordinate those units. There's also JSOC, which is an element of SOCOM, and I'm not entirely sure what JSOC does, but it stands for Joint Special Operations Command. I think it might be geared more towards getting different units from different branches to work together better, but I'm not entirely sure. So, and you could theoretically do something like that with Russia, but Russia's special forces are more spread out across the specializations and in general. Honestly, I'm a bit sad that we didn't get a Russian special projects specialization for things like maybe for things like the Poslonic as a sort of contemporary to the B2, or maybe the Su-75, and possibly things like ground drones, the Oran-9 and whatnot. Anyway, Special Forces. So what do we got? We got Green Berets. I wish I could zoom in more. They have... excuse me, 4 guys. They're airdroppable. Smoke. You got the MRGG, which I'm guessing is that thing. Which is chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. Hang on. Where is the airborne tab? No, that's the armor brigade tab. Airborne. Okay, so apparently it does more damage. So 6.5 Creedmoor does more damage. Even though it should be a smaller round. Eh. And then you have 7.62 millimeter machine gun. Scar. So that's basically a DMR. And then you have the XM25, which ignores some cover. Okay. Although I'm not entirely sure what you use these guys for. They're not strictly assault infantry. I mean, I suppose you could use them like that, but it's a relatively small squad. And then we have loadout options. Okay, they changed up the price here. Or at least from the Morrow document. Back from the press version. The M202, which is what that thing that guy has. We have a pair of HK-416s, which appear to be converted, or at least suppressed. The Mark 48, which is also suppressed, which takes a big hit to its range. An M1014 with slug. And then we have the M202, which is, believe it or not, this thing did actually exist. It is an, well, they get multiple charges of smoke. It is an shoulder-fired, 4-tube incendiary rocket launcher. Okay. That could be kind of interesting, I guess. And then you have sniper teams. Oh, they get a laser instead of smoke. Huh. Okay. We got a Scar Mod 20. An MRGGS, which again is shooting Creedmoor from the looks of it. Mark 22, shooting 338 Lapua Magnum, and then an M107. Aim time 5 to, wow, the aim time is long on these. I didn't notice the aim time was so long. Yeah. Okay, it is long. Alright. And these guys can see farther. Using them like that may not be a bad idea, though. Basically as a sort of, oh yeah, snipers. And then we have para-rescuemen. In reality, para-rescue is the training for it's called Superman School because you basically have to be Superman to complete it. It is incredibly rigorous, and they're a combination of kind of like if EMTs were also special forces and were expecting to save people's lives while taking other people's lives. That's kind of what pararescue is. This, however, is more of a assault infantry setup. Got 4 of those. 2 of those. Also got 2 of those. I wonder if that's interesting because presumably these 2 guys would have to swap between what weapons they use, and I wonder if that's how the game calculates that. And then flashbangs. Basically what these are used to do is they're used to immediately stun and panic. Because the game has a stun and panic mechanic depending on how stressed, for lack of a better term, the unit is. And that can negatively affect its performance. And flashbangs are supposed to crank that meter all the way up, from my understanding. You then also have a special tactics team, which is more of a it's more standoff focused, is what I'm trying to say. So you've got 4 MRGGs with honestly some pretty good stats. A KAC, which is also chambered in Creedmoor. That's interesting. An MRGGS. And then you have an FIM-92J, which apparently has better performance. Oh, and they have a laser. But they got fewer smokes. Grenade charges. The Ranger Recon Company. Again, this is geared towards close range. This setup. M320, Mark 48 suppressed. Got 2 of them. AT4CS with a shortened range. I don't understand why the range is artificially short for the M320 and the AT4. Or you could pay an extra 5 points for standoff loadout with scars. That's 7.62, but it's only, okay. Mark 13 grenade launchers. Mark 48s. Scar Mark 20. And then you have a, Carl Gustav. Sniper team, because snipers. Mark 12 DMR, chambered at 5.56. Okay. And M110, which is another DMR, chambered at 7.62. And then a Mark 210, chambered at 300 Winchester Magnum from the looks of it. And oh, it's suppressed. Cute. Are all these suppressed? I think all of these are supposed to be suppressed. Or you can go with snipers, in which 2 guys have M4s and AT4s. One guy has a 50 cal. And then you have this, a transport vehicle, basically. And it's got some pretty interesting options. You got a Mark 47, which is basically just like a Mark 19, but it can shoot at helicopters now. I imagine that's going to be interesting to see how effective that is. You also have a GAU-19, which is basically an M2 Browning, but it's a minigun. That's interesting. The load time's longer for some reason. You have slightly less ammunition. then you also have the access to a 30mm autocannon, which is kind of, again, interesting. It's got a decent range, decent ammunition count, decent pen. Although, if I'm going to be entirely honest, if you're putting this thing in a situation where you're caring about the ammunition count, you're probably doing something wrong. Because what this vehicle is very likely intended to specialize in is being very quick and moving troops around and not getting blown up. You got the MATV, got a Browning, also got a sniper rifle, a lot of ammunition, long range. This might be fun. Oh yeah. Huh. I can't remember if the MATVs were originally going to be in the Marine Corps Specialization. I think they might. I think they probably were. He's got an REWS with a 50 cal, and again the guy with the sniper rifle up top. Armor package. You can up armor it with, honestly, just this mesh, which I'm guessing is basically supposed to act like cage armor. I think there's a hole missing right there. Huh. Oh, it doesn't look like the entire thing loaded. I mean, that's not a big deal for me, but you have Mark 19 option, a 50 cal with a javelin, if you were so inclined, and you only get 3 missiles. Ooh, but it's a long range. Okay. RSOV, which stands for, I don't know, Ranger Special Operations Vehicle? I'm not sure. Basically, it's like a funky Jeep. You know, if these things were supposed to be in the Marine Specialization, I wonder what they're going to do with them. Like, if they do a Marine 2030 Specialization, are they just going to have the JLTVs? Which would be kind of interesting, because how are you going to fit a 13-man squad on a JLTV? Unless they give the Marines smaller squads. This thing is fast. Actually, that's the point. What's this thing coming in at? This thing is fast. It's one of the fastest ground vehicles in the game. In fact, I think it's only matched by the IFAV, and it's not matched by the Humvee GMV. Okay, so it's not going to be matched by any of that in the Armor Brigade. And Humvees. It's not going to be matched by any of this. Still don't understand why they did that. So I think this is the fastest ground transport in the game. Huh. And you basically have two options between the 50 cal or the grenade launcher. And you do not have a windshield. Why is the flyer... How is the flyer lighter than this? And you can't airdrop the MATV. And then we have drones like the MQ-9 with 500-pound smart bombs. I am a bit sad that we don't get the knife missile as an option. The AGM-114 RX-9 or R9X. I think it's RX-9. But at the same time, I fully understand what would we use the knife missile for. Oh, that's interesting. This is actually something I noticed in the hang on. Okay. The press release build from the press release, you have here you've got like the LJ dams, which don't cost anything, and then you have the LJ dams that don't cost anything, and then an empty slot that doesn't cost anything, which makes the empty slot basically pointless. And they fixed that here by making the J dams cost like 5 points. You know, I wonder if we're gonna get the General Atomics Avenger at some point. Kind of like a quasi-global hawk that can be armed. That'd be fun. Or you've got Hellfires. And in the inner pylon, you also got Hellfire. Oh! Okay, so those cost 5 points. In the inner pylon, you also got Hellfires. They're the AGM-114M. And... yeah! You got 8. The outer pylons can also take Stingers, if you want. The AIM-92. Nice touch that they changed the designation for the aircraft launch version. AIM specifically meaning... AIM stands for Air Intercept Missile, if memory serves. Basically, it is a... it's part of the designation system, and it basically means that it's air-launched, contrary to FIM, which means that it is not necessarily ground-launched, but it's man-portable. So that's a nice little detail there. And then you also have an option of tacking on a pair of AIM-9s, which actually have better performance at high altitude than the Stingers. You know, I never really understood why you would go with the AIM-9s over the Stingers. Because the AIM-9s just seem to be better. Or the Stingers seem to be better. You have twice as many, is the point I'm trying to get at. And the range is the same. But the AIM-9 does hit much harder than the Stinger. And It has a larger blast radius. It's also... It doesn't have... It has less pen, interestingly enough. It also has... The AIM-9 is also booking it much faster than the Stinger is. So... If you are so inclined, you can mount heat-seeking air-to-air missiles on here. Not entirely sure why you would, but you could. Or you can just go with the full drone strike package with 8 Hellfires. Generally, you'd use drones, at least from what I could think of. You would use drones for in one of 3 scenarios. The most common, by far, being acting as to hunt down enemy special forces that are running around in your rear areas, using the good optics on the drone to basically negate their stealth. The second is, and these next 2 basically boil down to something has gone sideways for someone. And the biggest difference is exactly who it's gone sideways for. If it's gone sideways for the other guy, that means that you have disabled his GBAD, or ground-based air defenses, and or removed any aircraft to the point that you can now use a drone, which has no countermeasures whatsoever, to conduct legitimate ground attack. Or to legitimately conduct a ground attack. And lastly, things have gone so pear-shaped for you that you basically are having to press the drone into conducting ground attack to try and turn things around. But those are the 3 scenarios I can see for drone usage. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that those are the 3 scenarios I can see for drone usage. I'd probably use them predominantly as reconnaissance and to try and hunt down things like infiltrators. And then you got things like the RQ-170, which... How can the RQ-170, being smaller, weigh so much more than the weigh so much more than the MQ-9. It's also much faster. Then again, it is jet engine driven. And it is stealthy, so. Yay for stealthy drones. I'm kind of interested that we don't get a RQ-180, which is basically just this, but with the Global Hawk stats. Granted, it would probably cost about as much. Or maybe 200 points. Next is infantry. And we have Delta. And once again, this is basically a close range configuration. Or not close range, but an assault configuration. Oh, that's interesting. And all 3 of the guys with the Mark 32s also have shotguns. So you've got the suppressed HK-416s, the suppressed Mark 48s, I believe, Mark 32s, shotguns, and then flashbangs. You can also kit them out with a standoff loadout, which gives you the MRGGA, the MRGGS as a marksman, or as a DMR, which is interesting. Huh. The light machine gun chambered in Creedmoor. I'm guessing that is the MRGGS. And then you get this thing. Which is interesting, I guess. You can use it like a quasi man-pads. Huh. I don't think this was in the, this was in here originally. No. No, they just had laws. Okay. And the price was a bit different. So. That's interesting. They've got a cute little launcher here. Even if the guy is technically phasing through the launcher's tripod. I'm not entirely sure how he's supposed to control it. I don't see a control box anywhere. But I like it. And then we have Rangers. Basic. Well, I say basic. I can't really say basic, but because the game is kind of treating them like special forces. Well, the entire specialization special forces, but this is the regular infantry in the special forces specialization. Is what I'm trying to get at. M4A1s, M320s, a pair of what appear to be cut down M249s, some DMRs, which. Huh. Okay. I would expect a 600 meter range, but alright. And this thing. I don't know what that is supposed to be. If it is RAAWS, that would probably be Ranger Anti-Armor Weapon System, but like I said, I don't know. And again, you do get an assault infantry option. With Mark 18, close quarters battle rifle, M320, suppressed Mark 48s, and 5 of these laws. Man, if you wanted to use some like assault infantry. I prefer standoff though. I prefer to keep the opponent at arm's length. Now we get 4 of those. And 2 grenade launchers. Interestingly enough, we do not get a machine gun option. Similar to how you had a, well, actually, no, we kind of do. But we'll get to that in a second. I was about to say, we don't get a machine gun team to go with the grenade launcher team like we did in the Airborne's specialization. You then have a Ranger anti-armor team. So with 3 of these, which is apparently the idea behind this team is that they defeat they can defeat APS just by sheer virtue of rate of fire of the rocket launchers. I'm not entirely sure I buy that. I'd have to do some testing, but that would be interesting, I guess. And then we have this. Oh, there's the 338 Lapua. MG. 4 of those, 2 of those, an F90, an FIM-92J, or we do get a Javelin with a lightweight clue. Top attack. Good range, terminal guidance. We have this in place of the Stinger. Actually, that is a point. Where is Airborne? Where's a 50 cal? 2, 20 or 40 versus this thing, which is like 1.8, 15 to 30. Okay. So yeah, this would basically take the role of your fire support teams. These two, or all 3 of them, I guess. And then we have vehicles, and the Rangers literally only. I say Rangers. The SOCOM Specialization literally only has one option, and it is this thing, the LMTV Warpig, and I have not been able to determine whether or not this vehicle actually exists, but here it is. I mean, I assume so. Basically, it appears to be an LMTV from like this that has just been trimmed down of absolutely everything that is not completely mission essential to create this. They strapped that laptop down? I think they did. Makes sense, I suppose. You've got an M240 in the front. And you have a pintle mount in the back for whatever you want to use it as. One thing I'm a little bit sad about is that this vehicle does not act as a, is that it can't carry supplies. I think that'd be nice. You can bolt on a Browning. Although, what kind of camouflage? That's something I didn't look at for this, I don't think. Or this. Or this. I mean, that's not the stealthiest thing in the world, but I kind of like it. Granted, camouflage isn't going to do you very much, but why not? Or hey. Camouflage does not really do much. Actually, paint does not really do much to an aircraft's radar cross-section, unless it's a very special type of paint. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about the guns. You have an option for an M2 Browning, a Mark 47 grenade launcher, a Fletcher for guided rockets, and what is this guy doing? I'm guessing he's supposed to be holding a controller? $16 rockets. They can target aircraft. Semi-active homing. So you basically have to keep locked on the max speed 0. So you have to keep locked on the target all the way until impact. So I'm guessing that's like a mini missile launcher. And then you have a tow BB. Interesting enough, the tow does not increase the vehicle's view range, which is a bit of a pest, I guess. Vehicle is pretty fast, though. But no dedicated anti-armor options. I'm still a bit sad that this thing isn't. That this thing can't carry supplies. I think that's a bit of a pest. You do not have any support options whatsoever. Technically, you don't have any vehicle options. It's just that the way this menu works, the only troop or you have. So there's 6 tabs, but officially, or there's officially 6, but there's actually like 7 if you count transports. Vehicles like this that can carry infantry that can't be put in your deck without infantry to go with them. And then those are generally tossed in the category with vehicles that can't carry infantry, like tanks. So technically this thing does not have any vehicle. Does not have any vehicles. And then only has 1 transport if you don't count the stuff in here. Because these 2 are also technically transports. So, no support. You do have a decent... You do have a decent variety of helicopters here, including the A-86, with 2 GAU-19s and 2 GAU-17s. If I'm going to be entirely honest, I kind of wish that instead of replacing the GAU-19s, you could replace the GAU-17s with GAU-19s as a different upgrade. What do we got? We've got Hydras. This is standard 7-shot pod. We've got the Dagger. Something guided rocket. I can't remember what it is. And it basically has the same stats as the APKWS. The thing about the Dagger pods, though, is that they're specifically designed to fit on the launch rails for the Hellfire, so that anything that can carry a Hellfire in either a 2-pack or a 4-pack launch rail can carry 2 or 4 4-rocket pods. And, ooh, these are good ones. Agent 114Ks. Or you can carry a pair of Stingers, if you're so inclined. If you wanted to go with full Hellfires for 95 points, you have something that could be useful against armor if you manage not to get it shot down, because it does not have any sort of protection system whatsoever. If you wanted something a bit cheaper, you could go with the rockets. If you wanted something a bit cheaper still, you could go with Hydras, but I'm not entirely sure why you do that. Then you have the AH-64E Apache. Which has M230. The daggers, and see, this is what I was talking about, being able to fit on the same launch rail. Got 32 of those. Even though you can also just take 38 with Hydras. Nope. The only advantage the daggers have, from my understanding, is a slightly longer range, and they can be laser guided. That's it. That's a bit of a pest. And then you have the AGM-179 Joint Air-to-Ground Missile. Terminal guidance. Again, terminal guidance, and not fire and forget. Okay. And these look just like Hellfires. I wonder if that's supposed to be a holdover. Because we don't actually know what the JAGM looks like, I don't think. This is basically supposed to be the replacement for the Hellfire. Longer range. Not quite more damage. Semi-active. Those have to be guided in all the way, though. So. Alright. For that matter, go to the Airborne. And the AH-64. And those have to be... those are terminal guidance as well. These things... these things are semi-active. Okay. You then also have stingers, if you so desire. I mean, you can really kit it out if you want to make the thing mind-numbingly expensive. I, however, am just more inclined to stick with that. You can, I mean, granted, you can do something like that if you wanted all the rockets. Not entirely sure why you do that, but you can. So. And then you have the wingtips. Another thing you have is for the large aircraft infrared countermeasure system, which gives you better EW, which might be more useful, all things considered. Or you can just equip it like that without the daggers. They aren't strictly necessary. 180, 290, that's what? 110 cost for the base platform. Compared to the cost for the base platform here, it's like 35. And then you have the MV-22, or the CV-22B Osprey with a minigun. Now, here's the thing. The Marines also get one of these. So, what on earth about the CV-22 makes it special compared to the ones the Marines get? Because it looks exactly the same to me. Speed's the same, maneuverability is the same, detection's the same, view range is the same, seat's the same, carcass the same, health's the same, EW and flares are the same. I mean, heck, even without the GAU-17s, the cost is literally the same. To the point that it's exactly the same aircraft. I don't know. So, I guess, because if you're running both, like if you're running a Marine SOCOM deck, and for that matter, why is the minigun 10 points here when it's only 5 points on the in the Marine deck? I don't understand that. Anyway. Also, doesn't it have a gunner yet? Anyway, it's an Osprey. You're probably going to use it to move troops around quickly. And then you have a Chinook. Specifically, you have the MH-47 variant, which is used for which is used by things like special forces. It's got all the weird radomes and junk, and the fuel probe. You also get more than one weapon per side. This is roughly comparable to the Chinook that you have in the... Oh wait, I didn't check the skins out. Did I check the skins out on this? I think I did. Yes I did, but I didn't check the skins out for this one. I keep forgetting to do that. Is that black? I think it's black. I like it. That almost looks like Coast Guard colors. Is that actually, is that what that says? Coast Guard? I can't tell. I mean, it'd be kind of funny, but what are those? I do not know. Some kind of countermeasure system? So you've got different options like miniguns or 50 cals. I kind of wish you had the option of I kind of wish you had the option of going with the GAU-19 here and for a couple of other aircraft. But, it's just me. You also have an option for the large aircraft countermeasure, large aircraft infrared countermeasure system, which gives you extra that. Compared to the Chinook in the Airborne tab, or the Airborne Specialization, you're about 45 points more expensive, but you've got much better EW. Maneuverability is the same, view range is much better, seats are the same, carrying capacity is the same. Weapons, you basically got twice the weaponry. If you don't mount the ECM pods, you're still about 20 points more expensive. Which I find kind of interesting because the only thing you really get out of it is a 75% increase in view range. So, and basically double the firepower. I will concede that point. I don't know, I probably would have shaved like maybe 10 points off the MH47 compared to its CH47 counterpart. But that's just me. Yeah, like maybe 10 or 15 points. And then the MH6. This is basically a transport helicopter. It's unarmed. You do have the option of throwing on a sensor, a tiny sensor mast. Turn this thing into a quasi-reconnaissance helicopter. And it is kind of cheap if you decide to do it. Use it for that purpose. Did I check these out? Yes, I did, but there was a Coast Guard one. But aside from that, it is unarmed. And again, has no countermeasures whatsoever, so be mindful how you use it. Next is the MH60 Direct Action Penetrator, or DAP. And you have miniguns in the windows. This thing can carry infantry. You can carry like 6 guys. That's about it. And you've got Hydras, 110 base price, or you can carry Stingers if you are so inclined, or you can carry 38 Hydras, just like all the rockets. What's that, 52, I believe? Yeah, 52 Hydras, if you just want all the rockets. Or some daggers. Is there supposed to be glass in there? Or Hellfires, if you were so inclined. Oh, they're the good ones. But you're getting expensive at that point. If I'm going to be entirely honest, I really wish we had the option of customizing these inner pylons independently, because I would love to mount Hellfires on one side and then an M230 on the other. So the outer pylons are the outer pylons, but at least that's what I would like to do, is mount M230s on mount an M230 on one side and Hellfires on the other. I also kind of wish we had the option of mounting the 38 shot Hydropod on the outer pylons, but that's just me. You do have good ECM though, although ECM will not protect you against bullet, which is one thing to take into consideration. Next is the MH60. This is basically the, for lack of a better term, Special Forces version of the Black Hawk. It's not really an accurate descriptor, but that's the best one I can think of. They were just opening the door. Looks like 4 or 5 seats in there. Anyway, it's basically, it's a Black Hawk. You've got an option of mounting a pair of those. If I were to go over here and pin this, and give it that, and then, well, and then go here. You see that it's virtually the same, except you've got twice the view range, and you've got much better ECM, but you're about 10 points more expensive. And you get twice the ammunition for some reason. But okay. Not entirely sure why you get twice the ammunition, but you do. I mean, it kind of makes sense on the Chinook, because you've got more guns. But on the Blackhawk, it's a little weird. Or you got twice as many guns, rather. But on the Blackhawk, it's a little weird. That's what I'm trying to get at. And then you have this thing, the MH-60X, the stealthy Blackhawk, which may or may not have been brought to fame in a little something called Operation Neptune Spear. I'm starting to think, like, I'm wondering, that rotor diameter seems rather small. I feel like that should be a little bit bigger. Apparently, flight performance of this thing versus the regular Blackhawk is not supposed to be as good, but I honestly don't see the main difference. Although it can't carry supplies, which is a bit of a pest, because that means you can't use this to try and reinforce your special forces once they're behind the lines. So, that's weird. I don't understand why they don't do that. I also don't understand why they couldn't just, like, give it some 240s or some miniguns indoors here that could pop open, like windows or doors or something that could pop open. To my knowledge, the stealthy Blackhawks used in Operation Neptune Spear have never actually been seen by the public or have been shown off. So this design may very well be speculation, which is fine. So honestly, it's no big deal. And then you have the RAH-66 Comanche. Now this thing was tested back in the 90s. And then canceled, mainly because those rocket pods are clipping into each other. Mainly because, well, the Comanche was the product of the first program to try and replace the OH-58, this thing, and there have been a total of 4 programs to try and replace the OH-58. The last one producing the Bell 360 Invictus as one of the contenders, which is very similar to the Comanche, except it's not stealthy. The Comanche was specifically designed to be stealthy. The Comanche was also designed to work alongside Apaches, basically spotting targets for them. Thus the designation RAH-66, Reconnaissance Attack Helicopter. H is helicopter, A is basically attack, R is reconnaissance. M M is multi-mission. U is utility. O is basically like scout or observation. C is cargo. Same thing here, utility. So, interestingly enough, the MV-22 follows, only the Marine-specific variant is designated MV. It's not like UV for utility or CV for cargo. I don't know if this is primarily because the Marines use it as a multi-mission aircraft, but well. And then you have the CV-22, which presumably would be cargo used by the... This one specifically is the variant used by the Air Force. But the Comanche. So... decent ECM. Not great, not terrible. It does have... The Comanche could also be fitted with proper small wings for ordnance for a non-stealth configuration. But in this one, they appear to have done that, or they appear to have kept it stealthy. Which is probably for the best, because we already have the Apache. So you've got 42 Hydras, if you're so inclined. Or you can go with daggers, for a total of 24. What their longer range, they're laser guided. You do not get a laser guidance, a laser designator here. Also, those clip through the aircraft. That's kind of funny. I like that. I mean, granted, the landing gear also looks like it clips through the aircraft, unless it does, unless the wheels do some weird 90-degree turn. The Comanche was one of many weapon systems that that were victims of the post-Cold War the post-Cold War budget cuts. Or you can get a variant with Hellfires. They're semi-active, so you have to guide them in all the way, unfortunately, but I suppose they're a decent anti-armor option. Or, if you are so inclined, for some reason, 140 for the base airframe. You can go with Stingers. So you can have a total of 12. And I'm honestly not sure why you would, but you can. I mean, do you expect to be shooting down jets with this thing? I don't know. I suppose you could kit it out kind of like this if you so desire. Although, if I'm going to be entirely honest, what I would probably end up doing is just kitting it out with the Hellfires and using it as a, attack helicopter that you're going to stay at arm's length from the target. Because that's where your stealth is going to be most useful. People talk about how the F-35 sucks because it can't dogfight. And yeah, sure, an F-35 is going to lose a dogfight against a Eurofighter Typhoon. That's already been basically proven. However, if an F-35 actually has to fight a Eurofighter Typhoon in reality, That F-35 is going to sit 60, 70, 80 miles away, and it's going to launch a BVR AAM at that Typhoon. It's going to blow the Typhoon out of the air before the Typhoon even knows it's being shot at. That's the advantage that stealth has. And that's why stealth is so important. Because sure, if the fight has gotten to the point where you're basically forced into visual range anyway, then yeah, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But if you're not there, well, speaking of aircraft, we have the AC-130. The AC-130. We've got a laser designator, flares, ECM. It can spot ground targets by itself. Interesting. Okay. You could also use this theoretically to try and scour your rear area for infiltrators and whatnot. I just love like all the sensors and domes and stuff on the aircraft. It's just so funny. What do you got? You have a Bushmaster with a lot of ammunition. Why is that top attack, but that's not? Eh. Very good range. That's useful against helicopters. And then you have the 105. For when you just want to punt a giant rod or no. The 105 is for when you want to take a high explosive shell and just shove it right through someone's crappy life. Just punt it right on in there. And that's why we like the 105. Because it's like, oh hey, yeah, that's a nice building you got. Here, let me put this HE round right through your window. And we do also have an upgrade. Kind of. It's an anti-aircraft gun. We have a rotary cannon. A 5-barrel 25mm rotary cannon. You know, for those times where you just want to sauce something or someone in half. .40mm Bofors, because why not? So, yeah. And then you have an option of Hellfires, more Hellfires, which are specifically HEs. This one, however, is using the M variant. So yeah. Or you can go with Stormbreakers if you are so inclined. For a precision guided bomb. I'm just going to go with the Hellfires. And then you also have the option back here. Does that do something to the ramp? It kind of looks like it does. Of these. Back here. In all these tubes. For anti-infantry work. And wow, those things are booking it. What is that? Mach 2, give or take? And what you're left with is a expensive, but what should be an incredibly powerful ground attack platform. I've seen people criticize the AC-130, like, basically saying to the effect of, this thing is going to get absolutely splattered by most any kind of air defenses. And they're right. The AC-130 would get splattered by most any kind of air defenses. The distinction, however, is that you're not supposed to use an AC-130 in those environments. That's not what it's designed for. What it's basically intended for is a... what's the right term? Is a permissible air environment, where you have control, either complete or pretty reasonable control over the airspace, and there's a bunch of things on the ground that you want to stop moving, or that you want to make stop moving. And that's basically what the AC-130 does. That's what the AC-130 is for. In game, would it be super vulnerable to most any kind of surface-to-air missile system? Well, heck yeah. However, in game, you also have things like seed, artillery, things you can use to target enemy ground-based air defenses, and you do also have air superiority options of your own. So, the idea behind using the AC-130 then is basically, if you take out the enemy's SAM systems or the and you have reasonable control over the local airspace, you then take the AC-130, fly it in, let it do its thing real quick, and then fly it back out as a fly it back out fly it back out before your opponent can basically do something about it. That is, from my understanding, how you're supposed to use the AC-130. Then you have the B-2. And wow, they just decided to just plunk it with the second sunrise option, huh? Your canned sunrise. Alright. I'm sorry, but why... Why is the nuclear bomb equipped with a laser guidance kit? Proudly something tested and operated by the men and women of the something command something team. Is that supposed to be maintained? Tested and operated. Huh. Oh, those hatches on the ceiling, those are for the ejection seats. For that matter. Anyway, why is the nuclear bomb laser guided? America. Like, why can you... Why is the nuclear bomb laser guided? It makes no sense. I mean, it's hilarious. The Coast Guard flying around in a C-130. An AC-130, rather. That is funny, I like that. Ooh, I like that. But, just, like... Why is the nuclear bomb laser guided? Your blast radius is like 2,300 feet. 2,400 feet. I'm pretty sure you're gonna kill what you're trying to kill. You got an option for just a bunch of conventional freefall bombs. A lot of conventional freefall bombs. Or you've got an option for a smaller number of much larger freefall bombs. Is that supposed to be a rotary launcher? Oh, no, that's not a rotary launcher. Although I wonder, does it change to a rotary launcher? I don't think so. You've got JSOs for clusters. Instead of your conventional massive HE bomb. And then you have a bunch of laser-guided JDAMs. Because why not? 2,000-pound laser-guided bombs. Sure. 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. Now here's the thing about the GBU-57. The game is basically treating it like the MOAB, the Massive Ordnance Air Blast, or not Air Blast, Massive Ordnance Air Burst. Not mother of all bomb, contrary to pretty much any media source tries to tout whenever the thing is even remotely mentioned. Effectively, what this is are those doors facing through each other? Huh. There should be a second door here. Oh well. Effectively, what this is this is a bunker buster. It's a silent great big bomb. It weighs 30,000 pounds. But it's designed to be dropped from very high altitude and use the combination of massive weight and gravity to give it enough kinetic energy to bore through a lot of dirt, rock, reinforced concrete, you name it, to destroy very valuable bunkers that contain things like command and control nodes or potentially an adversary's nuclear weapons, if it can so be employed in that way. And you also have 16 air-launched cruise missiles. I'm guessing that's a bug. Although, I'm not sure why you would use... Well, I mean... 800 air-launched cruise... Hang on. 800 for... 800... And yet this thing carries 50% more air-launched cruise missiles. This thing only carries 12, and you can make it 600. Or 650 if you decide to do that. Well, the B-1B isn't as stealthy, but it's faster. Is it faster? It might not be faster. It's got a longer loiter time. Doesn't have any countermeasures. The B-52 doesn't have any countermeasures either, even though that's what all this stuff in the tail is for that you can't quite see. Because the aircraft is absolutely massive. I still hope we get a B-1R at some point. So... I'm not entirely sure why you'd use the JSOs. You do have a relatively stealthy platform. The Moab, or not Moabs, but well, I mean, technically they're Moabs. Would probably be more fun. Especially if you just want to remove things like buildings. So. And then we have the F-117. And we've got a variety of options here. We've got 2 500-pound JDAMs. If you basically just want a cheap strike platform. 2 1,000-pound JDAMs. Is that for the laser designator right there? 2 2,000-pound JDAMs. A pair of JSOs. Air-launched cruise missiles. Or Stormbreakers. Okay. That's actually a pretty, for lack of a better word, versatile loadout. Or not versatile. You have a lot of options that you can choose from. I like that. Like, the only complaint I have is that I kind of wish you could customize each bay individually, so I could do the thing like I did with the Marine Corps F-35 and have one bay with a JSO and one with an LJDAM. A GBU-55 specifically. Although the Stormbreakers could be fun, I suppose. If they're accurate. Or if you're accurate with them. And then you've got the different camos. Toxic Death. Rehu. That's a reference to something, and I'm not sure what. And then you have the F-22. This is basically the single best air superiority fighter on Earth. You have... What do you have? 3-minute loiter time. Well, I mean, it's booking it. Rotary cannon, some AMRAAMs, 2 Sidewinders. And then you've got an option for 500-pound JDAMs, 1,000-pound JDAMs, Stormbreakers, or a JSO, for 1,000-pound bomb. Or, interestingly enough, you also have an option for 2 of the joint something or other, the JTAM. These things, and their range is stupid. Hang on. Where's the FA-18C? Okay. So it's the same range as those, but they don't quite hit as hard, I don't think. No, they don't hit as hard. They're booking it though. And they are terminal, and they do have terminal guidance. They're both booking it. So yeah, this is basically your air superiority loadout. For this is your I don't want anyone else to fly loadout. You still got a pair of AMRAAMs just in case you need them. But again, as I was talking about with the Comanche, your best bet is to just use stealth, keep your opponent at arm's length, and just use long-range weaponry to kill them without them ever seeing, much less being able to kill you. Okay, well that's an interesting paint job. Oh, it's worth noting, this hatch right here, it's for the rotary cannon. This door it's a door, it pops up to the side, and that's how you use the rotary cannon. I think the aerial refueling hatch is somewhere around here. I can't remember. It might be over here. This ought to be fun to use. And then you have the F-35. So what do we got? Some Stormbreakers and an AMRAAM. Oh, and we also have a rotary cannon in here. GAU-22 plain gun. It's like the GAU-12, but it only has 4 barrels. So we've got I mean, if you wanted to try and turn the thing into a quasi-air superiority fighter, you could do that. That's not bad for 320, I guess. The Marine F-35 variant could do something. Well, 265. See the ordnance of the base, which is a good point. Although I was interested mainly in kitting out the F-35 like this as a combination strike platform and, you know, just making it more versatile. If you want to do something like that, you can, but you also have access to 2,000-pound bombs, which seems like it's shoved very far up there, up in the airframe. Huh. With 385. It's 385 versus, how much was it here? 345. I mean, you get a gun and you get a bigger bomb. Well, performance is largely the same. EW is the same, flare is the same. Huh. Although, if you want to go with a 500-pounder, the F-35B is still 25 points cheaper for some reason. 80, 70. So that's 70, so that's like 235 for the base platform. And that's 250 for the base platform. Huh. Kind of steep, but okay. You also have options for Stormbreakers, if you want them. Anti-radiation missiles, which again looks like it's crammed all the way up there. 2 of them. Having your stealth aircraft hunt radar is funny. Or you also have an option for cruise missiles, if you are so inclined. Joint strike missile. I don't know, I'm more inclined to do something kind of like that, I guess, and just turn the thing into a radar hunter. That could possibly be fun. So, and it's not too expensive like that. Even if your missile load isn't particularly great. I suppose if you wanted to, you could do something like that, and you only have 5 extra points. And you double your missile load, but you only have 1 harm. Then again, I'm also working on the assumption, and granted, you know what they all say about assumptions, that I'm going to have some other form of persistent combat air patrol. Another alternative would be something like this if you wanted the precision strike in the form of the Stormbreakers. But still, I prefer the harms. Especially if you want to bring in something like a strategic bomber that isn't the B-2. Having harms and a persistent form of combat air patrol might not be a bad idea. And lastly, we have the MC-130. This particular variant is actually no longer in service. The MC-130H. This large, funky-looking nose attachment. These ones, like, this is like a Vietnam era or 1970s era, and it's no longer in. It's no longer in. What on Earth? It's no longer in U.S. service. Unless that's for some kind of countermeasure. At least I don't think it's in U.S. service any longer. This large, funky nose is for a. It's for a terrain mapping radar, so you can fly this thing as super low to the ground in particularly bad weather, and the terrain mapping radar basically tells you where the ground is, so you don't fly into it. For that matter, one thing I want to do is grab all of the different C-130s. We which you can't really compare them side by side by side. So, compared to the Marines version, you've got better countermeasures, and that's about it for 200 extra points, or not 200, 25 extra points. You can, however, arm the Marines version, so you know, it's like another 80 points. What's that, like 255, I think? Yeah. And then you have the Air Force version, which carries more seats and a slightly slightly greater payload. And that's 85 points. I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more something from the MC-130. At least if it's going to be more expensive. Maybe a slight reduction in stealth, explained by electronic warfare. That, or they could kind of take it as a sort of middle ground between the KC-130 and the C-130J. The KC-130J and the C-130J. The Marine Corps C-130 and the Air Force C-130, with like the Marine Corps C-130's payload, but the Air Force C-130's seat count. Overall, that is very, very interesting. I like it. I really do. I'm going to enjoy this game, I think. Next, I suppose, would be the Russians.